KP's Video News, y'all. It's KP's Video News, y'all. It's KP's Video News, y'all. It's KP's Video News, y'all. What? KP's Video News, y'all. It's KP's Video News, y'all.
Yep, it's KP's Video News, y'all. How y'all doing today? Yep, everything is all good. Yep, time to get the show on the road, man. Time to get the show on the road. Taking the show on the road, and I'm taking the show down south. Yep, because that's where they got all the madnesses going on right now. Quite sure you guys saw. Well, anyway, before I get into that, any new people that's on the show, that's watching the show today, hey, go ahead on and hit that like button, man. Hit that like button. And also share. And don't forget to subscribe to KP's Video News. And yeah, we're gonna do it up today. Like I said, I'm going down south with it, But back to what I was getting ready to start talking about. Quite sure everybody saw the the smackdown and the crackdown down in Alabama at the Montgomery docks. Oh yeah, they had Foldy Smackson over there. The chair, Smoley Faxon, and Aquaman swimming over there. Yeah, they was doing it up. But anyway, on a serious note, we have 6 white former police officers pleaded guilty today to state charges for torturing 2 black men. 5 of the former officers are from Rankin County Sheriff's Office. Chief Investigator Brett McAlpin, Narcotics Investigator Christian Dedman, Lieutenant Jeffrey Middleton, Deputy Hunter Elward, and Deputy Daniel Updike, while one of was from the Richmond Police Department. That's Richland. Narcotics Investigator Joshua Hartfield. Now, remember the name Hunter Elward, because I'm going to come back to him because he has other charges in addition to these charges here. All pleaded guilty. All of them pleaded guilty. They call themselves the Goon Squad, as they were known for using excessive force and not reporting it. They all pleaded guilty to state charges of obstruction of justice and conspiracy to hinder prosecution. Each reached individual plea agreements that include prison sentences ranging from 5 to 30 years, according to court records. And guilty pleas of the state charges arrived just over 1 week after all 6 men also pleaded guilty to 16 felony charges stemming from the torture and physical abuse of 2 black men. And they will be sentenced for the federal charges in mid-November. According to the Department of Justice's release earlier this month, the officers admitted kicking in a door and entering a home belonging to 2 black men, Michael Jenkins and Eddie Parker, on 24th of January without a warrant. The 2 men were handcuffed and arrested without probable cause to believe they had committed any crime. The officers called them racial slurs and warned them to stay out of Rankin County, according to the release. And the officers reportedly punched and kicked Mr. Jenkins and Mr. Parker, tased them 17 times, forced them to ingest liquids, and assaulted them sexually. On top of the other torturous behavior, the former officers devised a cover-up involving making false statements and charging the 2 men with crimes they did not commit, but also neglected to provide medical attention for them. And these guys are out of control, man. Said they got federal charges and state charges, and they are allowed to put a plea deal in for the state charges, and they dropped the state charges all the way down to obstruction of justice and a conspiracy to hinder prosecution. When they had all those other things that they had did, beat them up, shocked them with tasers, and the other physical abuse they put on them. It's really crazy, man, how they allow these guys to get away with all these things that they do. And so, now on to back over to the guy that I was talking about before, And it's a Mississippi lawsuit that can continue against the corrupt former deputy linked to the death of a Mississippi man. And the civil suit can continue against the former Mississippi deputy who pleaded guilty on August 3rd to torturing and shooting a black man in the mouth. And that man is Hunter Elwood. Yep, that's right, Hunter Elwood, the same person that was involved in the case against with the two men. So this civil suit can continue, and it's the former Mississippi deputy who pleaded guilty on August 3rd to torturing the two other black men that I just mentioned and shooting one of them in the mouth with. The suit alleges the deputy also is responsible for the death of another black man in 2021. In a Wednesday ruling, Rankin County Circuit Judge Brad Mills allowed the claims of excessive force to move forward against Hunter Elwood, a member of a group, like I said earlier, they called themselves the Goon Squad, a moniker they adopted because of their penchant for violent acts. And Monica Lee, the mother of the man that got killed, believed that Elwood is a current deputy not linked to Elwood's crimes are responsible for the death of her son, Damon Cameron. And every day she says she suffers, and she lost him because of these officers. And Cameron, who had a history of mental illness, was accused of vandalizing a neighbor's home in 2021 while living with his grandparents. Elwood responded to the scene and chased Cameron inside his grandparents' home. He shot Cameron with a stun gun and punched him with a closed fist, while Deputy Stickman kneeled on Cameron's neck even as he cried out that he couldn't breathe. Lee stated in court that in court records and interviews that and Cameron passed away at the hospital, and the autopsy report listed the cause of death as undetermined. The grand jury declined to indict Elwood and Stickman, and they were never convicted of a crime. Trent Walker, one of Lee's attorneys, said the judge's ruling would allow them to pursue justice for Miss Lee and her family on behalf of her son, Damien. Jason Dare, an attorney that represented the Rankin County sheriffs and its deputies in civil cases, declined to comment on the case. So, after Elwood escaped the episode with no legal ramifications, he went on to brutally assault, like I said, Michael Jenkins and Eddie Parker during that fake raid on January 24, 2023, and Elwood and 5 other law enforcement officers in the house without a warrant, and these deputies mocked them with racial slurs throughout a 90-minute torture session. Yep. Yeah. So the episode culminated in Elwood shoving a gun into Jenkins' mouth and firing the gun, lacerating his tongue. The officers then tried to cover it up by planting drugs and a gun on Jenkins. The deputies pleaded guilty to numerous federal crimes last week and are scheduled to plead guilty as they did today. They pleaded guilty today on state charges, and the charges follow an investigation. And and it said just going in a deeper investigation found out at least 4 other violent encounters with black men since 2019. They left 2 deceased and another with lasting injuries. Yep. So they always talking about that one bad apple, man. You got a whole group of 6 officers, 6 bad apples, and they even had a name for themselves, called themselves the Goon Squad. Yep. So, hey, they have been brought to justice. And in a news conference, former deputies pleaded guilty to federal charges. And they got the federal charges, and I hope that they brought them up on some civil rights charges, because they definitely violated the rights of these men. And it was all racial. Yep. So, hey, you got another situation where a panel of federal judges on Monday today, which began a review of Alabama's redrawn congressional map, which opponents argued defies the court's mandate to create a second district where black voters have an opportunity to influence the outcome of an election. The 3-judge panel, which blocked the use of the state's old map last year, will decide whether to let Alabama's new districts go forward or step in and draw new congressional districts for the state. Alabama was forced to draw new district lines after the U.S. Supreme Court, in a surprise June decision, upheld the panel's earlier finding that the state's then map, which had 1 black majority district out of 7 in the state where more than 1 in 4 residents is black, would likely violated the Federal Voting Rights Act. Yep. So, I'm telling you, man, lawyers for voters in the case argue money that the new plan, which maintains 1 majority black district, still discriminates against black voters. And they said it flouts the panel's 2022 finding that Alabama should have 2 districts with black voters comprise a majority or something quite close to it. So, hey, Mississippi, Alabama, all those states, man, you got to really be careful, So now I'm going to shift over to leaving Alabama. I'm shifting over to Colorado here. Yep, Colorado Springs police sued for targeting and spying on the Black Lives Matter and organization. An American Civil Liberties Union of Colorado has sued the FBI and Colorado Springs Police Department and local officers for allegedly and illegally spying on local activist Jacqueline Unzueta and the Chinook Center, a community organizing hub in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And this was one of the worst moments of my life, says Unzueta, who describes the investigation by law enforcement as incredibly invasive. The lawsuit accuses the agency of unconstitutional and invasive search and seizure of phones, computers, devices, private chats, and people and groups whose message the Colorado Springs Department dislikes. This comes after revelations that the FBI had infiltrated the Chinook Center by sending an undercover police detective named April Rogers to volunteer at the center in 2020. First exposed by investigative reporter Trevor Aronson, who writes for The Intercept and created the Alphabet Boys podcast. For more than a year, she was an undercover for the FBI, says Aronson, who reported the officer who used the name Chelsea surveilled the Chinook Center and unsuccessfully attempted to entrap local activists in gun-running conspiracies. This was part of the broader FBI effort to infiltrate racial justice and left-wing groups in Colorado after the policing and the policy of police killing of George Floyd. Yep. I'm telling you, man, it's crazy. Crazy. It's a bad situation, man. They infiltrated them. It's like, wow, you should be trying to go after these Proud Boys and these homegrown terrorists you got here in the United States. Homegrown terrorists that are threatening the free elections, that are threatening democracy here in the United States. Homegrown terrorists like the ones that follow and that support the criminal Donald Trump. You should be, doing that, and you should actually have them listed as terrorists instead of having a terrorist list that only lists people outside of the United States as being terrorists. And these people are creating terrorist acts. So, hey, it only goes to show that the bias that goes on. Anyway, you know who it is. It's KP. It's KP's Video News. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and don't forget to share with your family and friends. You know who it is. KP's Video News, y'all.
KP's Video News, y'all.
That's right. KP's Video News, y'all. Don't forget to share. Don't forget to like.
It's KP's Video News,
Don't forget to comment.
Y'all.